We're just going to give the folks a couple more minutes to join. Okay, it's 2 minutes past 12. Let's get started. Uh, Welcome everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good very early morning. If you're if you're joining from Australia, I know there's international colleagues joining us. This is a webinar for the Pan-Canadian Conformance Platform, and thank you very much for your interest and participation. Um, And the next slide, I think we have a agenda here, right? First of all, I think just one minor housekeeping items. This is a Zoom webinar, I believe. There is a Q&A little button at the bottom for anyone who have any questions. Please kindly type your question in there, and we will certainly allocate time to respond to those questions, right? So today, here's the agenda. My name is Andrew Liu, and I think we have a couple slides introducing the speakers. I'm going to do the opening and then, just briefly introduce Canada House Simple Way, because we have um, participants across the country and international colleagues joining us. Not everybody is, familiar with Infoway, what we do. So I want to give a brief introduction around that, right? About what we do, some of the standard and specification work that really explains the scope of conformance, what are we conformance testing against, right? And then at high level explain, some of the architectural decisions we made around the conformance platform and, the conformance service around the tooling we built. Then my colleague Edmund is going to walk through the conformance platform design and the architecture side of things. We're going to do a quick demonstration of the feature capabilities and the workflow. And then, we'll talk about what's on the roadmap for this platform. And then the operating model, some of the target service level objectives, and how we provide support and all that. And in the end, hopefully we leave some time for questions and answers. Next slide, please. Yeah, that's me. I'm Andrew Liu, Vice President with Canada House Infoway. My portfolio include architecture, specifications, delivery, conformance, and cybersecurity. Infoway, we collaborate with international colleagues and organizations, IC International, SNOMED, HL7, Region Street. And I know there's colleagues from IGE joining us today, and I appreciate your support. Next slide. Edmund, you want to introduce
Yeah.
yourself?
Then there's me. My name is Edmund. Nice to meet everyone. Here at Infoway, I act as the manager for solutions delivery, working under Andrew's leadership and others. And fun fact, I'm a pharmacist by trade, and really excited to show you guys what we've got planned today.
Thank you, Edmund. Next slide, please. Yeah, so about Infoway, we're independent and founded by federal government of Canada. Our mandate is, collaboration with the provinces and territorial governments, and healthcare organizations, clinicians, really all the stakeholders to advance digital health in Canada and interoperability. So our entire connected care program is designed and organized to achieve a interoperability roadmap that we collaborated and developed with the PTs and published in 2023. Our goal is really provide access to personal health information for everyone. And then we look to transform health, reduce admin burden, and improve the quality of care, right? Uh, improved patient outcomes. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I mentioned this interoperability roadmap published in 2023, right? I believe it's online. The development process was collaborative. We engaged stakeholders across the country. Really, there was four strategic goals identified. Uh, ease of data blocking and portability. Really, the use case there is, for example, a patient is changing primary care provider, right? And how we bring his or her medical record to the new care provider. The other use case would be like, for example, a clinic is, changing or migrating from one EMR solution to another EMR solution or other digital health solutions, right? How we enable the data portability in those use cases. And then the provider access to data, how we make sure the provider, have access to patient data when and where is needed. Enable patient access to their longitudinal health record, and also the improve coordination of care, right? The e-referral and e-consult specification we've been working on. And then to help realize achieving those goals, there's four near-term initiatives that we've been working on. One is expanding patient summary adoption, right? Align our standard with international patient summary and really promote adoption and implementation about patient summary exchange across country. And then the data portability specification, we are collaborating with vendor community, and drafting and developing the baseline of the data portability specification. Around patient access, we have a specification called Halo, right? It's based on Smart on Fire pattern, essentially enable the smart app or centralized web rendering of user features and capabilities so that they can be launched by existing digital health solutions. And then those plugin apps could be used by providers or patients, like the consumer apps. Is also in scope of this Halo program. And then the referral and consult specification, right, to enable coordination of care. Next slide, please. Yeah, so over here is really trying to provide a visual to tie our specification specs together, right? And all the specification described here are in scope of our conformance testing and conformance service. So what it's trying to say here is, on the right hand is the user, right? Clinician with the digital health software or application he's using. On the left side is the data that's dispersed across different application systems repositories, right? And how we give the clinician access to this data. So we have the data stream of products, right? And we have the CE core profiles, similar to our international colleagues. There's US core, there's Australian core. In Europe, there's the EHDS. legislation and initiatives, and the EU core is forming as well, right? So we're hoping to establish this foundational fire profile set so that all our use case specifications, like patient summary, referrals, the clinical service directory specification, all those profiles are aligned with this foundational fire profiles, right? And we collaborate with our sister organization, another health agency, federal health agency called CAIHI, Canadian Institute of Health Informatics. So they work on a Pan-Canadian health content data framework, like the comprehensive data model. And then a subset of it is called a CACDI, right? The Canadian Core Data Set for Interoperability. Um, and the CA core is really provide the FHIR implementation of FHIR representation of the CACDI. And then this data needs to be exchanged, right? In terms of the exchange specification, we have CAFEX, which is Canadian Fire Exchange, right? This is a RESTful approach where we enable like patient summary documents, right? It's called a fire composition, I believe, right? So we can exchange those document and resources between different actors, a consumer between a client and server, a consumer and a repository, and so forth. And then we also support MHD, which is IHE profile, right? For those people who are familiar with IHE XES, right? Which used to be very well adopted, in US and in Europe around CDA, around the PICS PDQ, the patient query type of profiles. And, MHD is really a mobile version or RESTful version of that profile to enable resource or document exchange. And also I mentioned the Halo, right, which is based on the international Smart on Fire specification. And, we try to leverage Halo to, make the integration easier. And, once a smart app is built once, it can be integrated with multiple launching systems like EMRs or EHRs, right? And then at the bottom is really the foundational profiles or components, audit logs, security, and formatting profiles. And then of course there need to be registries, to enable document exchange or messaging, where to locate the sender and receivers. Next slide, please. So this is patient access diagram. All the data component, data specs, exchange specs and profiles are still relevant, right? And Halo is relevant because we do open up that framework to support consumer apps or patient apps. And then there's the shared health link specification, which is based on Smart on Fire, smart health links specification. And we collaborate with internationally with WHO and IHE International on a profile called Verifiable Health Link. Essentially, in Canada, we have province went live with this, New Brunswick, where the patient could mediate, we call them patient-mediated access, right? Patient could initiate a generation of patient summary document and generate a QR code, password or PIN protected, and taking that QR code to a working clinic or another health provider other than his or her primary care provider, and allow access to his or her patient record or patient summary document to that clinician. Next slide, please. Yeah, so those are the products, and then what are the services we provide, right? One of the key services is really around conformance, and why we started this conformance platform tooling project, because we know to establish a service, right? We need people, we need technology, we need processes. And and due to some of the challenges, which is we're going to describe in the next slide, we decide that a self-serve model and automated validation against our Pan-Canadian specifications would be a much required a starting point that we offer. Next slide, please. Yeah, in terms of challenges, right? Because in Canada we have 10 provinces, 3 territories, and each jurisdiction, the testing approaches, are different, right? And not to mention, not everybody has the resources to do conformance, right? Budget is limited, resource, technology, that's all require investment. And from the vendor implementer perspective, right, this inconsistency or differences across jurisdictions really added to the cost and burden for them to do business right across the country. In terms of the solution, we're really trying to remove or reduce at least the redundancy, right, and provide a centralized a service. And also, in the modern days, a lot of the vendors are very agile and they have to continue to build an integration, right? And we wanted to offer the vendors when they implement IPS or patient summary or e-referral, e-consult, they have something to test or develop against, right? Not just about conformance, even pre-conformance or even in the development phase, they have a counterpart to develop against. Edmund and I and much of my team are, was have been providing support for the Pan-Canadian e-prescribing service we've been operating for the past 8 years, right? And we found that, the vendor development and the conformance against e-prescribing specification, they needed a lot of help, right? Even as simple as a autoresponder in some passage, a message. They send a message, they expected a counterpart to send that message back and to be able to validate are they on track to meeting the requirement or not, right? So the idea of a self-serve automated validation platform is to help the vendors early, to help them test early, to help them to know how much and how close they're on track in meeting the requirements. Next slide, please. Yeah, in terms of value proposition, as I said, for the vendors is to help them test early and test often, and then give them a way to validate conformance before jurisdictional reviews and simplifies and shorten their path to certification. And for the jurisdictions, they could leverage our service and our tooling so the vendors are pre-validated against the Pan-Canadian standard and specifications, right? And streamline their procurement process and help reduce the risk in the digital health investments and help them focus the limited resources on implementation rather than validation. In terms of the health system and Canadians, hopefully the conformance service will enable faster innovation and enable much needed interoperability between different systems. And the benefit of interoperability and connected care is all listed here. I'm sure this audience can say much more about what we have listed here. Next slide, please. So just very briefly, in terms of some of the core architecture decisions, right? We invested a lot of time doing an environmental scan to see what's out there, right? How other people have been doing this, what platform, what tooling that's been around, and we decided to go with here are the key decisions in terms of the representation of the test scripts, right? The conformance test scripts. Um, we chose to go with the Gherkin syntax and also supported by a Cucumber framework, which is very well adopted in the software development industry, right? Because what we're looking for is for the test script, we would like it to be both human readable and machine computable, right? Machine computable so that the engine or the framework of Cucumber could orchestrate and execute the test script automatically. The human readable part is really, because the testers or the conformance subject matter experts, they're not developers, right? And we want them to be able to design the test script or at least read the test script to see what are the test steps, right? I think that bridges the gap between the not only the test team and development team and also from the business and technical, right? Because uh, the Gherkin syntax is really human readable. You see, where, what, and what are the next steps are. Um, and we decided to go with a pluggable architecture because it's a self-served model. You bring in a system and you need the other side, your partner, to interoperate with, right? And that partner in a self-served, no peer kind of test scenario would be a simulator. And we want, validation to be done automatically. I run the test. I know if I pass or fail. If I fail, and I need to see where did I fail and how did I fail? What's wrong with my file document or file message, right? So that's the simulator and validator kind of architecture, and we use those components in this platform, and also in the Canadian Project Song test event we host annually. So we want to build once and reuse it in multiple use cases. And then we have the whole intention of be part of the open source community. Next slide, please. Yeah, so Edmund will go into more detail with this. We definitely have our Pan-Canadian specifications in scope of the conformance platform and conformance service. And then, we started with the no peer self-served automated tests. We'll gather feedback from the user community and from the stakeholders and our partners, right? We're now ruling out the need or possibility that we're going to evolve to support peer-to-peer tests. And then, in terms of testing tools, we know, right? Fire is becoming more and more adopted, and we want to have a solid fire validator provided to support all the fire validation out there. And we know there are certain constraints or requirements in those fire profiles are not entirely human, are not entirely computable yet. So we have the business validator developed to validate or conformance test some of the business requirement constraints that are not have computable representation. Um, and yeah, of course, it's cloud-based and micro service architecture. Uh, Next slide, please. Yeah, I think this is my last slide. So this shows is a map of Canada, and there's a bit of a legend there. The round dot is a patient summary, and then it also shows ERAC, Halo, the adoption across the country. The color coded from the production to limited production, under development, and all. So patient summary, I think, is the most adopted specification product of ours so far. We have at least 8 provinces or territories, either in production already or in LPR, limited production release, or the product is under development, right? So, we are 3-4 months into the conformance platform build, and we decided to prioritize the patient summary and Canadian Fire Exchange so that, the implementers and vendors of patient summary in Canada, get early support. And, the conformance testing capability around the other Pan-Canadian specifications, some of them are code completed, some of them are in testing phase, and we will be releasing them in the next few months and targeting the end of fiscal, which is end of March. Yeah, Edmund?
Great. Thanks, Andrew, for the context and the introduction to sort of our work boiling down into the conformance platform. So now I'd like to spend a little bit of time just talking about the design, the architecture, anchored around some of the goals that Andrew presented. So in summary, I think there are four kind of key tenets or key building blocks that we wanted in the conformance platform to kind of meet the vision and the goals. One being, of course, the gherkins and the cucumber. So you have human readable testing language, automated test execution, and then you have fire validators and custom validators, as Andrew mentioned, and that's really going to help provide that immediate feedback, right? The test early, test often, and that's what's really going to enable that. And then we're going to have a dynamic proxy as well. We recognize with interoperable systems, with data exchange, there's something that kind of needs to look and peer into what's happening to make that evaluation of whether the behavior of these systems are meeting expectations or not. And lastly, we've got simulators, right? So, if this is going to be available 24/7, you need a test talk partner. You need, takes two to tango, as I kind of say. And so that was another key tenet of the conformance platform and making sure that was available, if anyone were to opt to do testing, any time of the day. This is a busy diagram. So I'm going to try and annotate here and, kind of guide your attention to what's important. So, we'll start with the front end here. These were kind of the key views that a user, in the conformance platform would likely need to like to see. Of course, the supporting ones, the administrative, and then the reporting. But most importantly, it's the conformance testing, right? That's really the view and where all of the meat and potatoes are of the conformance platform. So behind it, it talks to a test management service, and that's what's really going to anchor all the interactivity, whether it's loading test cases or executing test cases, for the user to be able to do the testing year round. And then behind that is going to be also importantly is the execution or test execution orchestrator. So that's, fundamentally it's the Cucumber tool that is going to, grab a test case to read from to say, hey, here are the steps that need to be performed, and I'm going to go through each of them. And at some point, because we're testing interoperability, we do expect some data exchange to happen, and that's where the proxy comes into play. So the proxy is there, and really to capture that action, right? To capture the hard work that everyone's kind of put through to make systems interoperable. And we can imagine now a client system, an interoperable client system, sending a request, that's been laid out in the specification, and then feeding that back into a number of places. So firstly, it feed it back to the test orchestrator, and I'll explain why in a second. And then also saving that evidence, right? So that's work that was developed out of a system, now it's made available and saved into a repository for future viewing, for reporting purposes and things like that. And then, of course, forwarding the request to the server system, so that we complete the round trip of the interaction. Now, I didn't mention the proxy sends, requests and data exchange back to the test orchestrator. And why? Well, it's for the, immediate feedback. So it's going to interact with a validator, a FAR validator, custom business validators to then provide the tester with immediate feedback to say, hey, you've done it correctly, or here are some gaps and whatnot. And then putting it all together, foundationally, of course, security is important to make sure this thing is locked up like that. Good user access controls as well to make sure, you're really only seeing your work and not others and vice versa. And then audit logging. So, when it really comes down to making sure that the right people are testing these so that when the reports come out, we can all tie it all together. So moving on to the next slide here, I'm just going to clear this. What does the user journey look like, right? So this is sort of what we envision at the moment, how the user would move through this platform and get some testing done. So as a new user, you would onboard with the platform, make a request to get access, provide some details, and then get notified that your access has been approved and that you can log into the system. So after logging in, you'll be able to select a number of conformance test suites. And a conformance test suite is just a list of test cases that sort of encompass all the requirements out of a specification. So if one specification says, you've got A, B, C, D that you've got to demonstrate, there'll be a test case presented in that conformance test suite so that you can test all those requirements. And then once the user selected a test case, they would go ahead and, for example, hit start test and start executing. So the automated test execution takes place, right? And sometimes it might wait for an interaction to happen, like I mentioned to the proxy, and we'll get a demo of this later. And then ultimately to give the tester real-time feedback to say, hey, in this test, we, evaluated XYZ, and, you met X and Y, maybe not quite Z, and, this is what you may want to look at. And then in step 4, you have the evidence review. Every test that comes through the platform will have a report, that documents all of the things that happened during the test, what was being tested, and the results. And then lastly, reporting. So, at some point, we want to aggregate all these test results to really get a good picture of what's been tested in systems and what kind of interoperability is available. Speaking of the platform today, in December 2025, we've kind of got a version 1 out right now that is open for anyone to try. And what you can expect out of here is a basic user guide, some little bit of manual registration, but we'll get you in there, and then some basic execution pieces and navigation. In terms of specifications that we are currently able to test in the platform, that will include the patient summary, the Pan-Canadian Patient Summary version 2.0.3 draft ballot. We have patient summary, Alberta Patient Summary version 1.1.0, and we also have CAFEX, which is the Pan-Canadian Fire Exchange, just the document exchange portions in version 2.1 draft ballot. And of course, you get all the nice bits and pieces as well. You've got a simulator if you want to test data exchange. You've got the Fire Validator and the custom business validators that we have to really inform your implementation. So now I'm going to jump into a demo of the platform. And to do that, I just wanted to also provide a summary of the patient summary for those that are unfamiliar. So in a nutshell, it's a clinical snapshot of a patient's health at some point in time. And, there are some mandatory data domains, some optional data domains, and that's sort of all packaged in a FHIR document. So let's pretend for the next 10 minutes, I'm running a company and, I've built an EMR, and you know what? It makes sense for me to implement the patient summary so that I can move this data around so that other providers have access to it, for the patients using my EMR or application. So what I can do now, starting today, is come to the conformance platform, be presented with a landing page, just learn a little bit more about what's going on, and be able to log in. So I'm going to log in here, right? It's going to use my InfoCentral account that I have with Infoway, and then this is the first page. So first page kind of guides me through, how I can get started. So first I'll have to select the organization I belong to. So today I'll represent Canada Health Infoway. And then secondly, the system I'm bringing to test, so the one that I started my journey with, will also be available to be selected so that I can test it. So I'm going to click the demo MVP here. And then after selecting that, I'll be presented with this page. So here's where we would see the conformance suites that are available to test. So there aren't any here because I haven't created any, but this would be where they are first presented. So let's do that together. And I can hit the button here, create conformance suite. And I'm given a dialog to sort of enter some details about my system. So perhaps this is my version 8 system. And I can say this is a patient portal app or some other details, as sort of as an FYI to myself. And then here I get to select which specifications I like to test. So for today's example, I think, I've been working on the patient summary, and in my roadmap, I do also plan to exchange it, like I mentioned. So, and I think I'm going to use CAFEX for that. So, I'm going to also select the patient summary and the CAFEX test suite here to be loaded in. So I'm going to create test suite here. And that's going to present me with, a number of conformance suites that are now available to test my system with. So like I mentioned before in my journey, I've just started with the patient summary implementation. I want to know how well I did, right? Did I get all the bits and pieces that the specification is looking for? So what I can do now is go ahead and open the patient summary test suite, clicking the Conformance Suite button here. And that's going to load all those test cases. So like I mentioned, every spec is going to have its nuances about what requirements to test and whatnot. And there's going to be a test case to evaluate each of these. So here for now, we've got two test cases available for the patient summary. We have one that says minimal expectations. We have one that's comprehensive. So because again, I'm starting my journey, I just implemented the patient summary, in a couple days. I want to know how well it did. I think minimal makes sense. So I'll go ahead and click select to launch that test case. And then I'm presented with this view. This is the first page you'll see is a test description of what's being tested in the test case. There's a lot of words here, really just to give you an idea so you're on the same page with the test case. But more importantly, I want to highlight a couple sections that I think are important. So we've got the actor section. So that kind of highlights in this test case, who are the participants, right? Where do you sit in the data exchange and where does maybe the simulator sit? In this case, because it's just a data standard I'm testing, it's just really myself. So I've got myself as an actor. It clarifies here which version of the specification I'm using, and then I've got the steps. So here, as you see, the steps are in plain language. If I read it out loud, it says, Step 1, user uploads a bundle resource validation. Step 2, the conformance system validates it against the IG pack, or to fire the implementation guide pack using an external validator. The system will also validate the resource against the business rule validator, and then also ensure that I've contained my patient summary has the minimal number of resources that it's expecting. So once I've got a good handle on the test after reading it, I can go ahead and click proceed, and that takes me to the main text execution window. So here I see again that human readable language indicating what steps are going to be executed. So given that this test or this suite is using the patient summary specification, user uploads a bundle resource, and that resource should be valid, and that resource should contain, etc. So now I'm ready to start my test. I'm going to hit start test here, and then I'm giving a configuration window. Now this is important when there's data exchange happening. In this particular test, there isn't, so I can actually skip over it, but we'll come back to this in a subsequent example. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start test. Oops. And now this is what's going to trigger that automated text execution, right? So Cucumber under the hood with Gherkin syntax, laying out the expectations of every step. So here, the step is to upload a bundle resource. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I've prepared that out of my system. I've got an option to upload a file, actually paste JSON. So I'm going to opt to select the file today. Oh, my computer is taking a moment. Let me choose this one. So I went and uploaded the patient summary that I created out of my system and I did a validation. Oh, and it looks like I have some challenges here. And so this is what it would look like when the immediate feedback kicks in. So I can click the button here. It says view errors, take a look at what went wrong. And I'm given that test report that I mentioned. So the way this test report is laid out is that the first section is a copy of the test description that we went over, and then we have all the steps that were executed. So for example, we were using the patient summary specification, which version, I successfully uploaded the resource, and then and then the next step was to validate it. So here I see validation errors, and so it's an operation outcome, if you're familiar, that gets rendered out here so that you can review and go back and reiterate, any issues that were found here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I can go back to test execution. I can say, you know what? I went back to my system. I fixed it. I'm going to restart test. Again, I'm going to be able to skip this configuration because it's only for data exchange purposes. And then I'm going to upload maybe a fixed version of this. Okay, there we go. So now, again, I went back to my system, I fixed those errors, and now the validator is saying, oh, I'm all green, I'm all good. So it looks like my patient summary implementation is sort of ready to be exchanged now that I've got all the data in the right place and the right pieces. Do want to flip back to the slide just a little bit, just to kind of maybe give a 1 minute overview of how CAFEX is laid out. So CAFEX is described using actors, options, and transactions. So let's just focus for a second on the data source. So that's an actor. My system has created a patient summary. So I could be a data source here. And then I've got an interaction that I could use to send it to somebody. And in this case, that actor's name is data recipient. So the transaction or the interaction between these two actors is named CAFEX 1A, submit fire document, and that belongs under the bundle option. So I could say that I'm a data source and I subscribe to the bundle option, and therefore I have to do the 1A transaction. So that's sort of how CAFEX is laid out, and then the selection of the test cases then follow. And just for clarity, putting the patient summary and the CAFEX exchange together actually meets a use case. So in this one is a healthcare provider creates a patient summary. So on the left-hand side, that's me, my system, the system under test. It's going to be able to send a patient summary, and during the test, it's going to be a simulator, and we'll be able to test that through the platform. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to choose a different conformance suite because now I'm introducing CAFEX and patient summary together. So I'm going to select this one. And then here are the actors I mentioned. So my system identifies as a data source. So I'm going to open that one up. And you'll see here there's one use case that I can test, the one I presented earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and hit view details here and say, yep, that's the right one. That's the one I want to test. I'm going to hit select. And then again, importantly here, we want to take a look at the actors, who's participating. We have the system under test or SUT, which is my system that I'm bringing. It's a Pan-Canadian patient summary producer and a CAFEX data source. And I'm going to be interacting with the simulator as my partner to Tango as the Pan-Canadian patient summary solution and CAFEX data recipient. And again, you see here the steps again are very human readable, in business language. And so we have step one, SUT creates patient summary. Step two, SUT submits the bundle with the patient summary to the solution, et cetera, et cetera. Just in the interest of time, just going to move a little bit faster as well. Once I've got a handle on the test case, I can go ahead and hit proceed, see those steps rendered out. That's going to be automatically executed, and then I can hit start test. So now this window becomes important because the system needs to know who's participating in the test, and more specifically, who's the server in this side of the transaction, or who's going to be receiving the patient summary for this test case. So I need a simulator for this because I'm bringing my system and I'm sending somebody the patient summary, and I don't have a system like that. So we've actually provided that under the description. You'll see a section called Simulator Resources. So here we'll list out any servers that are available that you could use during your test. And if you have any issues or any challenges with them, there's a user guide available as well. So I'm gonna go ahead, proceed, hit start test. That configuration window comes up again. It's asking me, okay, who's the server in your test that you're gonna be interacting with? I'm going to use the simulator that was provided, enter that into here, and then I'm gonna hit start test. So what's this doing in the back end? It's creating a proxy channel. So now I can execute this test using the proxy. So, in the architecture diagram we saw earlier, if I hit the proxy, then the test gets awareness into it and can give me that automatic validation. So I'm going to copy the proxy URL here. And I'm just going to pretend here, this is my system under test. It's my EMR app in progress. And I'm just going to send a patient summary like I developed, in the last few days. And I'm going to hit send. Now I come back to the test. I see that the test kind of move through each step. First that there's my system under test acting as the source, and then the system under test sending a request to the simulator. And then the next step, request should be valid. So looks like my request is valid, but then there's another step here that didn't quite work out. It says my patient summary wasn't valid. So again, I can click on view errors and take a look at what's wrong, and continue my iterative development using this tool. You can also view past test runs under history, and in the test reports, you can of course download them if you need to share. And then there's the user guide that's available to you as well on the bottom left. So if you click that, it opens up just to give you some pointers and reminders around how to do some of the things like run a test case or interpret the report. And lastly, there is a contact us page. So here you can click on it, you can mail our conformance team, and we'll get back to you with any assistance that we can provide. Okay, and just to round out in the last couple minutes, the roadmap for the conformance platform. So certainly what you saw is really just the beginning, right? You kind of got a few ideas in the works, including, CI/CD integration, maybe self-registration, improving that a little bit more. But I think most importantly, it's the enhanced user experience, that we get to co-develop with all of you and co-design with all of you, right? We want this tool to be able to meet a broad variety of needs, right? And we don't want to guess. So it'd be really great to hear sort of what you've seen today, how you could leverage it, how we could change it so you could leverage it. That's what I'm looking forward to the most in the roadmap. And of course, all of the other Pan-Canadian specifications are planned as well. Now, like I would highlight here, Halo and CAE Rec, CA Core Plus, and CA CSD are planned to have test suites as well. And then one more note on our operation model. Our desk hours at 9 to 5 Eastern Time, Monday, Friday, excluding holidays. We'll have a maintenance window every Friday, 3 to 5. And of course, our email is there if you would like to get in touch with us about anything conformance related, platform or otherwise. Just gonna skip over this slide. It's just about incident resolution. For anything critical, we'll get on it, resolved as soon as possible. Any feature requests or any other smaller incidents, hopefully in 10 to 14 business days. We're also going to be offering drop-in sessions over the next few weeks. Won't go through the list here. We'll send out the slides after the presentation, but they're here if you'd like to, mark your calendars, really get access to us, and ask about any support or any ideas you have for the platform. And then if you take away anything, it's this slide, hopefully. Getting access. If you requested access already, your account should be enabled by now. But in 3 simple steps at the moment, this is how you could get access to the platform. First, you'll need an InfoCentral account. Then you'll come to the platform request access form, fill that out, shoot us an email about the system you'd like to test, and we'll provision your access. And just the last plug, 2026 Pan-Canadian Projectathon, if you haven't heard about it already. February 24th to 26th, virtual free event, registration ongoing, QR codes there. If you'd like to sign up, and happy to answer any questions about that as well. That concludes our webinar today. Thank everyone for your attention, and I think we can kind of go through the Q&A in the time we have left.
Yeah. Thank you, Edmund. It's a lot of effort went into this from the team, right? Edmund as the product owner and lead development manager, the PM, the architects, the developers, and our development partners, right? Big thank you to everyone. Edmund, we did get a bunch of questions. I
Yep.
don't know if everybody have access to that. Uh, just in case we can't go through everything, right? We have the open door, the office hours, or happy to schedule something offline, right? Really we want this to be available to support the vendors as early as possible, and also really hoping to get feedback and learn from the colleagues here and to enhance and improve this collaboratively. So I'll start from the top. So it seems this model will only work to alleviate inefficiencies as intended if all jurisdictions are on board and commit to not duplicating conformance processes. Are all jurisdictions on board and willing to remove duplicative efforts? I think the response is, that's the goal, right? And we have been, and thanks to our wonderful regional team and account management team, right? We've been in discussions with multiple provinces and territorial teams, and folks see the patient AB is there and automated, right? So definitely had conversation with Alberta team, been in discussion with other provincial teams as well, right? The desire is there, the need is there, right? It's a journey, right? Definitely we're working towards that. That's not only applicable to the conformance service, right? And it's really the Pan-Canadian approach, the Pan-Canadian specifications, and how we can streamline and have the consistent national requirements so that to ease the burden of implementers and vendors, right? So that's absolutely the goal. That question, man, I'm getting old. I need my glasses. Uh, if vendors if vendors pass validation, is there a seal of approval or certification that they can receive so they can publish or say they adhere to? Yes. So within this platform, right, we're publishing a dashboard, right? Um, the pass and fail. I mean, the in terms of certificate, right, we're definitely designing that and collaborating to figure that one out. Because the specification of the standard, a lot of times it's not a simple pass and fail. You need qualifiers right around it. For example, patient summary, right? You got this required segments like allergy intolerance problem list, medication, and there's recommended segment. There's things that are optional, right? And in terms of exchange, there's different options. That's how you query and retrieve metadata or the entire document and so on and so forth. So our intent is to publish the test result or test report and also describe, right, in a definitive way what was tested and what capability you have, right? And there could be different options in doing that, but definitely start with human readable, right? And we could look at possibly a registry or even have the computable capability statement type of artifacts published as well, right? But definitely the publication and of test report is in the plan. But we'll definitely collaborate with the vendors and stakeholders and making sure you're comfortable in us publishing those. Next one is from Joni Harper. Yeah, I believe Bo responded to that. Yes, we are validating the terminology used. Next question, we have systems okay, so it's a connection there. So we have systems specifications at Ontario Health. How do we performance against those specifications as opposed to Pan-Canadian or jurisdiction specifications? Yeah, I think that's a good question, right? End of the day, the reason we started, or even I started the session describing what Info is doing, and it's really our starting point is, we need to be able to measure and conform and test our own products, right? The Pan-Canadian specification portfolio that we collaborating and working on with the stakeholders, right? We got to be able to support the implementation and conformance of those. But like I said, we have been working with our PT partners, right? One of the major program, in Ontario is a Halo e-referral rollout, right? And the different key components in there and the requirement to the vendors in terms of, app catalog, app store, Halo Hub, and the plugin app and the EMR requirement. So there's absolutely collaboration over there. But in terms of the jurisdictional provincial specification and requirements, right? We need to work with the owner and the custodian of those specifications, understand the requirements, and understand the willingness and what is required to collaborate on those, right? If it involves testing and using some of the provincial IT assets or their conformance environment to test against their specific implementation, maybe authorization server, maybe a certain repository in order to conform vendors, and we're open to that as well, right? Um, so looking at the next question. Will this presentation document be circulated after the webinar? Yeah, I don't see any problem with that. We can definitely make it available. Um, Next one, quick question. What type, format of evidence do you require to validate conformance requirements? Is it video recording, snippet, etc.? Evan, you want to take that one?
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
manual
yeah.
side of things. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think a lot of evidence that's required for conformance requirements are just really going to depend on the specification, right? So if there's a requirement that says, hey, this needs to be on the screen, then screenshot makes sense. But by and large, our specifications, at least in the Pan-Canadian specifications, don't ask for that right now. So in the meantime, we've really focused on making sure that, HTTP type of requests are captured, fire payloads are captured. But the platform at the moment does support uploading these screenshots, right? If you think that's going to be helpful as evidence to supporting the passing of the test case.
Yeah. Thank you, Edmund. We have 4 minutes left. We'll get to as many questions as possible. Like I said, we offer, let's connect offline after this, and happy to discuss more on this. Next question, may the registry URL be posted here, or it may be circulated to the audience after the meeting? Uh, Registry URL. If you're talking about, having access to the platform, right, definitely we're making that available. Uh, if you're talking about the registry of the vendor conformance report, then it will be part of the platform, right? Sorry, I couldn't quite get to, or what the question was really looking for, but again, happy to follow up on that. Um, the next one, does validation conformance work against the real system as opposed to validation against the IG? If so, how does it handle operational outcomes? Pretty good question. Yeah. So I think in the deck I don't know if it's on the roadmap or in one of my slides, right? On the roadmap, I think right now we're doing the no peer, right? We're doing no peer. We're testing against simulators and validate using our validator. Simulators is really a implementation of the standard, right? You need to behave and produce and consume data compliant to the standard. You talk, testing against or operate against real systems. That's like a peer-to-peer scenario, right? So we're definitely not ruling that one out. And actually, we encourage everyone to join our Project Song event. And that's really, where the value comes, right? The peer-to-peer and multiple vendors, multiple organizations, multiple systems come together, and we can collaborate. We can try, everybody said, well, you know what, I support HL7 V2 version 2.5, but you put two systems together, either configuration, either problem that we need to sort out, and the Connect song and Project song is designed exactly for that purpose, right? In terms of a conformance platform, yes, we have seen solutions that offer for those systems that are willing to expose the endpoint 24/7 and making them available on the platform. And the system under test could access those and do real interoperability testing with those systems or endpoints available, right? It's on the roadmap, but as of right now, we are focusing on providing the automated self-test capabilities for all of the Pan-Canadian specifications we offer. 12:59. I tend to say let's wrap. Sorry for the questions we couldn't get to. Do send us email, do reach out. Got our email address over there. I just want to thank again everybody, right, from, really around the world internationally as well, right? I see DD sign up for it and participate. Thank you so much, for your support from IT board. And, I'm very excited to collaborate with everybody, in Canada and internationally as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day.